But I haven't talked to this guy in a while. He's certainly one of the most recognizable figures in the history of the game. He's got more World Series of Poker bracelets than anyone else. Very happy to have on the show right now the poker brat himself, Phil Hellmuth. Phil, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
You guys started off with the Lady Gaga poker brat. It made me smile because I'm seeing Tiger Jam on Friday night, which is a charity poker tournament. Tiger will be there, and then Lady Gaga we're seeing in a private concert on Saturday night as part of the Tiger Jam festivities.
Isn't it incredible what poker has been able to do for you, not just from a financial standpoint, but the people you're able to be friends with, right? You do talk about this all the time, Tiger Woods being one of them, the people you've played golf with, the people that you've partied with, right? I mean, you've played in poker games with Leonardo DiCaprio, I would imagine, right? You've met all sorts of people that you've become friends with, right?
Just in the last month, I was invited to Austin to go to a party hosted by the Winklevoss brothers. And one of my best friends, Billy Diplo, was there. And we knew that Elon Musk was going to be in the house too, and we were going to start by I was going to start by seeing a lot of my friends and then the party. So it was just going to be a really fun kind of a 2-day event. And it was right in the middle of the U.S. Poker Open, and I'm like, I just need to focus on poker.
Right.
And then when E opened his factory a couple weeks ago on a Thursday, and then he had a party Friday. I was in Chicago doing an event, and I considered just too much travel, though.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. The crazy stuff, even when I open my mouth, it sounds like name drop, name drop, name drop. But Mr. Beast wants me to come and film with him Sunday. So in LA. So some 8 p.m. start, $50,000 buy-in poker game.
Oh my God.
With Ludlow, who's some massive names. It's a weird life. You're right. And all the stuff that's kind of been brought to me, and, I recognize it, and I'm grateful for it.
And you've earned it, though. It's not like anybody gave it to you. You had to earn it at a very young age, winning the World Series of Poker against Johnny Chan. So let's talk about that. Let's talk poker for a moment, and then we can get back to the more fun stuff. So so Phil, I don't think there's anybody in the poker world that doesn't respect what you've accomplished. We all know the great player that you are, right? But you have been getting a lot of criticism over the last several days. You have this heads-up match with this guy named Eric Pearson, who's an amateur. He's a local businessman. There's no question he was rude to you, right? He's flipping you off. He's saying ridiculous things. I watched the entire thing. He was rude to you. But
you watched the whole thing?
Yeah, I did. I watched every hand.
It's only an hour and a half. It makes sense.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't that long. But listen, he ran good. He ended up defeating you, but it's not because you played bad. But he obviously got to you. I think you would be the first one to admit that. Why did he get to you, number one? And number two, I think you'd be the first one to admit, there are times where you are extremely, I guess you could use the term rude. I think you're funny at the table, and I love your passion. You're the ultimate competitor. Nobody can take that away from you. But a lot of people are saying, and I sort of agree with it, that, listen, he was very rude to you, but you've been rude to people for years. What would you say to that?
Well, I think people that compare, apples to oranges, this is what our society does, right? And so there's no perception to the actual truth of what happened. And that's okay. And that's just the way people are. They consume things in one bite. And Phil acted exactly this way 100 times in the past, exactly this way to the way the guy. No, it's not even close. Right. I never intentionally attacked anyone in my life. You can go back and see every single clip that I've ever done. It's either they started it and then I started barking, or they put a bad beat on me, mm-hmm. and then I was out of line and started barking.
But a lot of people don't know this about you, and I do. When the cameras are not there, you're the same guy. I've seen it. I've seen you at the World Series of Poker when there is literally not one camera there, and I've seen you blow up off camera. But that's what I appreciate about you. There's nothing fake about you. This is who you are, right?
Exactly. But the oranges. So all the people that said, like Negreanu, he knows the truth, and we texted back and forth. He knows that I don't just randomly attack people, and yet he goes public and say, this is exactly what Phil did. It's not exactly. It's not the same thing. But I'm not trying to proclaim my innocence here. I'm just saying you're comparing apples to oranges. Mm-hmm. I'm also saying that this is my fault. So it's my fault because I've been protected everybody's protected, not just me. Everybody's protected at the World Series of Poker. You can't have people go off on you. If they do, you call a floor man and they give them a penalty and they're gone for half an hour. They'll give a warning, then a penalty. So I can't have an amateur who doesn't like me start screaming and yelling at me or start saying all kinds of negative stuff to me at the World Series of Poker, and I have to deal with that. No, that's so we have rules that protect everybody from that.
Tell me if you disagree with me or not, Phil.
Wait, let me finish, Brian. Let me finish.
I'm sorry.
So my point is this.
Yep.
I've been protected for a long time. And then for me to sit down and have somebody who I've never even heard of before just start attacking my legacy, it got to me. That's my fault. You understand? I had this, but I was just like, what is going on here? Because if this happened at the World Series or any tournament, I would call a floor man over and I would say, hey, you need to, this guy's out of line. The table would confirm he's out of line. They'd ask, and then the dealer would confirm he's out of line, and then I'd get protected. I get have to deal with it. Let me finish.
Yep.
And so for him, so it caught me by surprise, and also mea culpa. My ego's a little big right now, right? My ego's big. I've been winning everything in sight, for so long. 12 final tables in my last 50 world-class tournaments. No one's ever done this before. And I've been winning all this money in the cash games and online and everywhere I go. And everybody tells me how great I am. And I get texts from presidential candidates.
Really? Who?
And so what I'm trying to say is my ego is out of control. I'm going to say big. Yeah. And I blew an opportunity. Here's a guy that came and insulted me and was completely out of line. Yes, we both agree on that.
Sure.
And then I handled it poorly. What I should have done is I should have just taken it, because in the past I would take it when I was prepared for that. I should have just taken it,
right? And
then I would have won over a lot of fans, and a lot of people would have said, "This guy's an asshole. Look at how well Phil handled himself." But no, I fucked up, and so that's me blowing an opportunity because maybe my ego's big and maybe it was a little unexpected.
That was going to be my next question. You just made complete sense to me. That was the only thing I was surprised about, that you didn't. And I'm not saying it's easy to focus on poker when somebody's swearing at you and flipping you off, but you're the ultimate professional. That's the only thing that I was surprised about, Phil, that you let it get to you and you didn't put your headphones on. You didn't just play poker. Do you think it affected your game at all?
No. Yeah, at the end a little bit, right at the end. But I let's be fair. To be fair, people have attacked me when we didn't have protection for years and years and years.
Right.
And you can't let that affect the way you're playing. The way I saw the match, and Ollie called me afterwards and said, "I'm sorry you had to deal with that in the booth." He hasn't called me in months, and that was just really brutal. We just felt for you. This guy just randomly attacked you, and he was on sun run. In other words, he was getting super, super, super lucky.
Right.
And
he did.
And I look back and I mean, he just I'd have ace queen, he'd have queen 10, and we'd have all this money in there, and he'd hit a 10 on the river and not even bet it.
Listen,
and so he won all of these weird hands. And so I felt like I gave myself a chance. And if it had been the same format as High Stakes Duel, where I can make it last 6 hours, then, but give him credit. Give him credit for the way he played. And I went and apologized for my part in it. He apologized for his part in it. And then the story just kind of disappears. Although, you have me on the show today. But it's amazing how, just people apologizing and shaking hands. People like controversy, but they also I think they like it when people are big enough to apologize and shake hands.
But you'll be the first one to admit this. Not only are you so popular because of all the tournaments you've won and the World Series of Poker bracelets, but it's your personality. You're fun to watch. You're a fun guy to watch. I'll be honest with you. I like the Phil Hellmuth blow-ups because they're entertaining. You're an entertaining guy. I know you're not doing it for that reason. You're so competitive, and trust me, I can relate to that. I played 2 college sports. I get it. But let's talk about that. Where does that come from? Because you seem like the kind of guy that if I'm playing you in Pac-Man, you're going to be angry if you lose. Have you always been that guy, whether it's on the golf course or the poker table?
Okay, so it comes from all right, so listen, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and my father was really into education. He has a PhD, a JD, and an MBA, law degree. So it's crazy how many degrees he has. And so grades were important to my dad. and I had ADD. So that's a lot of letters. ADD, PhD, MB. I don't know if you're still following me.
I am.
So I was the only one of my family that didn't get great grades and didn't play an instrument and wasn't great in sports. All right. And so, I mean, that was tough on me. So I had to at least win at every game we played. And I had a competitive advantage, 4 younger, 1 brother and 3 sisters. So I won at every game. And when someone would finally beat me in a game, like my brother would roll double 6, double 5 to beat me at backgammon, I would go crazy because I didn't have anything left in my life, I felt like, that I stood for. I'd at least be great at games. And so I would have poker brat blow-ups against my brothers and sisters if they dared to beat me at a single game. And it didn't happen often, and I'd lose it. And so then when it came to poker, right away, I was the best player. By the time I was 24, I won the main event. I won a bunch of other tournaments. And so I just kept getting the money in with great hands.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, my self-esteem, which was tied to games, my self-esteem, which shouldn't be tied to games, which shouldn't be tied to poker, was affected when someone beat me a hand. And they didn't deserve to win it. And I would bark and go crazy.
Right.
So it's something that came very naturally and normally from my childhood. And, it's just, and I think that turned a lot of people off. I figured when they made me into the bad boy of poker in 04, 05, that people would realize that I'm the good guy, the one who's never cheated on his wife, the one that's not an alcoholic, the one that doesn't do a lot of drugs. Not that drugs are bad, and so I thought, wow, I'm the honest, pure guy. And I thought this is, people will realize this. And yet there I am, the bad boy of poker, 15.
Yeah, but the marketing has been.
You know this, Brian.
Yeah.
The poker world loves me.
Of course they do. Of course.
You ask all the professionals and they all say, we love Phil.
Of course, anybody who knows you personally knows that you're not a bad guy.
Right.
The people that say you're a bad guy are the people that don't know you. Now, I know a lot of poker players in this city. I'm pretty good friends with Daniel Negreanu. He comes on this show all the time. Mike Matusow, he's sometimes difficult to talk to when I talk politics with him. But Mike, Phil, they all tell me that. Okay, I've been living in this town for 20 years. I know you're a good guy. You're obviously great for poker, but I'll tell you what's not good for poker, and you tell me if you disagree with this or not. 8 or 9 internet poker players that are in their early 20s that don't say one word at the poker table. I don't care how good poker they're playing. Don't care. The reason why poker was so big after Moneymaker won was partially because of Moneymaker, because of guys like you and Mike Matusow, guys that talked at the table that were entertaining. What do you make of it now? I mean, the World Series of Poker, it's not even covered other than maybe 2 or 3 events on ESPN, and the ratings are down. And Poker Go is doing well. I get that. The diehards like to watch poker. It doesn't matter who's playing. But I think these, internet players are not good for the game. I think guys like you, guys like Danny, who talk a lot, even a guy like a Tony G, right? Or
Yeah.
Antonio Esfandiari. These are guys that are good for poker because they talk. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, 2 things. One, 80 million people were watching the World Poker Tour in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Now this year it's 400 million. So the numbers are up 5x.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number two, watching you're right that it's the personalities, and the reason the personalities exist, I think, is because a lot of the top professional poker players in the world had to be entertaining to play with for the billionaires to come and play with us. Mm-hmm. And so the people that were playing in those games all the time that people wanted to play with are personalities. And so then things kind of shifted and changed. And so, yeah, a new generation. And sometimes those guys don't carry the ball as far as personalities go. They don't carry the ball as far as being professional entertainers go. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. It's taken a little bit of an effect on poker. And I want to say one last point.
Sure.
When we're talking about 2019, one weekend they had a $1 million guarantee in Philly. A $2 million guarantee in Philly. They had $1 million guarantee in Northern California and $1 million guarantee in Southern California. $300, and $500 buy-in tournaments. You need a ton of people to hit these guarantees. They all went flying over. So that showed me at the end of 2019 that poker was super, super healthy at the low stakes,
Hmm.
right? I mean, if you call that low stakes, I mean, for
Right.
me, that's low stakes.
Hmm.
I'll be in a game today where I could win or lose 200,000 playing with my friends, which is actually a lot for me. Maybe 300 swing today, but
Wow.
I'm talking about poker being, I'm talking about poker just blowing up,
Hmm.
but no one knew. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of hidden numbers out there to suggest that poker is, listen, what did we do? We went 05, 07. Oh, we just kept going up. And then we all agreed that poker started falling after
Yeah.
online poker left.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I also find it interesting that there's a whole new generation that's really into poker. I mean, I talked to some of the Warriors players that are really young and they want to play. And, I'm going to have to play $100 buy-ins just, to kind of, because I think they're going to be fun to play with. And then I talked to, it's amazing how it seems like a lot of the 18 to 22-year-olds now are into poker. And we had a generation that wasn't quite as much into poker as the other generations. But now we have grandmothers, family members, everybody seems poker just keeps growing and growing and growing. And you look at the number of networks poker's on.
Right.
That's crazy. You're like, oh, it's only in 2 places. No,
No.
go scan your channels
Yeah,
and
you're
see
right.
how many times poker. And then you have these huge live streams,
You're right.
that have really
I
taken
was
off and are seeing record
You're
numbers.
right. I was watching poker on CBS Sports the other day. I didn't even know poker was on CBS Sports. If you're just joining us, he is the poker brat, Phil Hellmuth. Phil, I got another 5 minutes here, so let's have some fun before we got to go. You mentioned some of the Warriors players reaching out to you. I would imagine you've played poker with some of the most famous people on the planet. You mentioned some presidential candidates reach out to you. Do you care to share? I'm just so curious what politicians reach out to you. Can you share any names?
Well, because we filmed with Ted Cruz. So, and listen, I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican. Now,
Right.
Yang is supposed to film with us too.
Hmm.
So, the Ted Cruz that I met, I liked, but I watched him. I watched him on stage against
Right.
Trump. But the Ted Cruz that I liked was reasonable, smart, fun.
Will you be
I look
playing
forward.
poker with him in the Cancun, perhaps?
Well, I'm going to stay away from that controversy,
Fair enough.
and I'll say that Yang. But I mean, both sides. And you talk about right now. There's articles about the Supreme Court justices that are playing poker, because I knew that there were 2 or 3 of them. I knew that 2 of them were playing poker years ago, and so now we have 2 Supreme Court justices that are playing poker pretty regularly, and now they're talking about it.
Wow.
And so, Obama, he had a game in the White House. President Clinton, Clinton, I've done events for a bunch of times.
Did you play in that game with Obama ever?
I did not. I would
No.
have flown for the White House just for that. Yes, for sure.
Mhm.
The last time I was in DC, I reached out to some people who were going to set up a game with 2 of the Supreme Court justices,
Wow.
which I would love to have played in. But it's just now that they've started to go public, I guess a few weeks ago, I think it was, if you look up Supreme Court Justice Poker, you'll see an interview that one of them just did. And so one of the female Supreme Court justices, and I'm just not recalling names, but it's pretty cool to me to see, and I would love to play poker in the White House, whether that's with a Democrat or Republican. I'm flying in.
Yeah, I just, it's amazing your life and what poker has given you. And I'm not talking just financially. We talked about this to start the interview, the celebrities that you've become friends with and, NBA players reaching out to you. It's so crazy. All right, last thing, Phil. So we had Danny Negreanu on a few days ago.
Wait. You want my Tiger Woods story?
Yes, please. Give me a Tiger Woods story.
Okay. So I MC his event every year. And so I'm emceeing it this year on Friday night.
Yep.
And then Tiger and I will probably smoke a cigar. We'll have a few drinks, and we'll play high stakes blackjack with each other, which we've done a bunch. And so, I go to give my 16th World Championship race away to Sky Dayton, and one of my old friends, right? And so, and the only reason I flew in is because I haven't seen him since the series ended in November, and I'm like, I had a trip to LA, I canceled the trip, and I'm like, I'm flying in one night to meet with my guys. So I fly in. My guy David Sachs at the table, some other guys whose names they don't want mentioned. That's fine. And I was looking to myself, billionaire, and that's how they make fun of me. billionaire, 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 and everybody's laughing because that's how they tease me, right? I'm the known as the billionaire wrangler on TikTok, and I'm like, and they're like, Phil, you know every billionaire in here, and so we at the last minute switched to Nobu, Malibu. So we're on the balcony there, and it's amazing to me. The energy's great. I'm with a bunch of my best friends, and I give my 16th bracelet to Sky Dayton, and then I get tapped on the shoulder, and it's Tiger. And Michelle Bemis, who runs his charity.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit, Tiger. Oh my God. So now Tiger has had 15 majors and I had 15 world championships.
Right.
And I'm on the mic with him for 10 years straight. So I'm always teasing him 15, 15, you know what I mean? And the numbers have changed over the years, you know.
Right.
He was ahead of me. I caught him. And so I'm like, Tiger, is it okay if I tease you? I asked him, which I know he wants to be teased. Him and Michael Jordan, when I'm with those, they want to be teased.
Right.
They don't want freaking praise. Praise is corrosive. He's
Right.
like, yeah. And I say, Sky, give me my 16th bracelet. Or his 16th bracelet now. And
Right.
as I pull it out, my plan is to say, this is what it's like to have 16, bitch, to Tiger. Because I know he's going to laugh and love it and have fun with it, you know? I mean, because he wants to be teased.
Yeah.
And I pull it out and I say, this is my 16th. And Tiger says to me, he says, Phil, oh my God, Phil, I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it.
How cool is that? The best golfer to ever live saying that to you. And by the way,
And I was just like, fuck,
yeah,
I can't go with the 16 bitch line anymore.
who knows? Maybe he gets to 16.
But
You know,
it really made
Yeah.
my weekend. And my friends were like, that was Tiger Woods that just came up to you. I'm like, yeah.
how
yeah.
cool is that? That's an unbelievable story, and we're so glad Tiger's doing better and he's playing again. All right, Phil. So I had Danny Negreanu on a few days ago. He said you blocked him on Twitter, and then you recently added him back on. Unfortunately, I was one of those victims as well. Is there any chance Pushing Limits LV could get back on Twitter with you?
Okay, hold on. It might be something I should do right now. What did
We're
you
gonna
say
do
to
this
me?
one.
Were you
I didn't. No, I didn't say anything. I think I did what Daniel did, and I said I made a joke. I think I'm trying to remember the joke I made, but I made a joke. I said Phil Hellmuth calling the floor to kick somebody out of
Pushing Limits what?
Pushing Limits LV. The joke I made, Phil, was Phil Hellmuth calling the floor and kicking somebody out for acting rude is like Donald Trump trying to kick out a politician for lying. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. That's all. That's not that bad, is it?
You're unblocked.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like the oranges to apples comparisons that people made.
I
And I
understand.
blocked more people this week than I've ever blocked. And I blocked a lot of people on Twitter for years. But you got to understand, Brian.
Yes.
If I do something wrong,
Mhm.
and you're unblocked now.
Thank you.
If I do something wrong, okay, like I lost it at the World Series, I threatened to burn the place down.
Right.
But they didn't show that I said I'm going to tell a joke. And I shouldn't say it. And I said, but if I don't win this, I'll burn the place down. It's an old school thing that Sam Grizzle and the guys would
People are
walk
idiots
into
if
the
they thought you were
casino
gonna
and
do it.
they'd say, they'd be buried and they'd have this negative look on their face.
Of
If
course.
I don't get out today, I'm going to burn this place down. We'd all laugh.
Nobody
So I
takes it
presented it as a
seriously.
joke.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they cut it out the
Right.
joking part to make me
Sure.
look maximally bad.
Yeah. Well, that's
Every time I do something that's on the line or a little bit bad,
Yeah.
it seems like hundreds of people come out on Twitter. It's like, hey, it's
Right.
time to like shoot Phil. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
time to blast Phil with negativity.
Well,
and I'm like,
that's
all
wrong.
right,
That's
now's the
wrong.
time where I'm going to block.
Nobody should be thinking that you ever took that statement and made it serious. Those people are morons. I'll say this. You have been great for poker. You've always been my favorite player to watch. I'm not saying this to kiss your ass. I'm saying that because I mean it. You're an entertaining guy to watch, besides being one of the best to ever play the game. And I always appreciate your time when you come on, Phil. And thank you so much for being here, my man. And have some fun with Tiger this weekend, all right?
I sure will. And then Lady
Thanks.
Gaga. Later, guys.
I'm so jealous. All right. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate your time. He is the best, isn't he? The poker brat, Phil Hellmuth. I love his honesty. You know, I love his honesty. By the way, can anyone look me in the eye and say he's not been great for the game of poker? You know, whether you don't like his etiquette at the table or not, if you'd rather watch a bunch of boring people at the poker table, come on. He's Phil Hellmuth. And we appreciate him taking the time to join us. I'm unblocked. The poker brat just unblocked me out live on the radio. That was pretty cool. Hey, tomorrow on the show, we got some fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. The man who made the racist jokes at that, what do you call it, the firearm event?
The CCW.
Yeah, the guy who made those racist jokes. It made national news out here in Las Vegas. He's joining me in studio tomorrow. And a music icon, a legend, an alternative rock legend is going to be joining me tomorrow on the show. We all know Alice in Chains. The great Jerry Cantrell will be joining me tomorrow as well. By the way, a poker player. Jerry, I've played poker against Jerry Cantrell before. Great guy. So Jerry Cantrell will be joining us. And as I mentioned, the guy who made those racist jokes, he's going to be joining us as well to answer to that. Thanks to all my guests, by the way. Amber Whitley, the poker brat Phil Hellmuth, joining us as well as NFL great Roman Oben. That's been a great show, everybody. All right, have a great day. Tomorrow, same time, same place. Take care, everybody.